Hello and good evening, and welcome to Marlborough Minute on WMCT-TV. I'm your host, Ryan Maliar, and tonight we have a very special roundtable discussion focused on how the city of Marlborough serves its residents through education and cultural programming. I'm joined by Andre StrongBearHeart Gaines Jr. and Scott Stronghawk Foster, two members of the local Nipmuc tribe here. Welcome, gentlemen, to the show.
Thank you.
Excellent. And on my left, we have Sara Belisle, who is the director of the Marlborough Public Library. Sara, thank you so much for being here as well.
Happy to be here.
Now, Scott, I understand that you are a wonderful photographer. I've actually seen your exhibit, and you have a display at the Marlborough Library. Let's just start the ball off by telling me about what that display is, the name of it, and how you came into making these wonderful photographs.
Well, thank you for the wonderful introduction. It all started many years ago, and it's evolved into one of my passions. And the thing that I was trying to accomplish, or I am accomplishing, as a matter of fact, is that Hollywood has romanticized the Native American in the mindset of Dances with Wolves and the Plains Indians. And most folks who are not indigenous think that if you don't look and dress like the Plains Indians, then you're not Native American. And that bothered me. So what I was trying to do was break the paradigm. And I began going to powwows and taking pictures of Eastern Woodland Native Americans in their traditional clothing. Because the way I explained to folks is that Floridians dress differently from people in Maine, who dress differently from people in California. Indigenous people are the same way. It all depends on your region, what resources are available to you, how you build your homes, how you make your clothing, your tools. And I wanted to try to highlight that to bring awareness to our community.
Give me a few specifics in ways that the way we typically think of indigenous dress for different native tribes, how it differs from this in this particular region. What are some key aspects that we might be able to latch onto as we look at your photographs?
Eastern Woodland, we make a lot of our clothing from deerskin or buckskin. That's been brand tanned to make it soft and supple. Wampum, which is made from the cog shell, that's native to New England or the Cape Cod region. It depends on the birds, red-tailed hawk, some eagles, but, out west you have buffalo, antelope, things like that. So it all depends on what animals are indigenous to that region.
And of course, what's the name of your exhibit?
Ways of My Ancestors, We Are Still Here.
We are still here, and that's really wonderful. It ties in perfectly with what we'll be discussing today, how institutions like the public library can use programming and educational outreach to promote understanding of Marlborough's really strong, diverse community. So Sara, as the library director, what is your vision in serving all the residents through cultural events and displays and learning opportunities? I know that's a big umbrella right there, but how do you begin to wrap your mind around how to deliver culture into the community here?
Yeah, one of the roles of the public library and one of our missions is to bring these things to the community. The library is for everyone. It is one of the few institutions in the city that anybody, regardless of age, race, economic level, the library welcomes you. And I feel strongly that it's our institution's goal to make sure that everyone in our community is represented. So one of the ways that our new library has been able to do that is through art. This is the first time we've had a dedicated art space in the library where we're able to provide local artists with a chance to show and share their voice and share their story. And I'm excited to have that be part of the library's mission, is bringing that sort of culture.
The library's just been renovated, and now you have these beautiful, big, clean walls that deserve really important art on them. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Excellent. And Andre, I'd like to get your perspective as well on the importance of educating the wider community about your tribe's rich heritage.
Well, good evening. I'm Andre StrongBearHeart from the Nipmuc tribe, and I'm the creative director of No Loose Braids, which is a nonprofit organization that focuses on cultural revitalization and preservation. And what that does is actually focuses on putting the puzzle pieces back together in our community that colonization and assimilation has tried to strip us from. And so we're coming back into a balance, this paradigm shift, and with everybody. And so through public education, cultural workshops, and teaching our community some of our traditional practices is what we focus on, along with land stewardship and focusing on the land back movement.
Yeah, you said that the name of your nonprofit is No Loose Braids?
Yes.
Explain that to me.
Well, that's a longer conversation, sitting by a fire, but I can tell you it in short. It's about repairing our people's mind, body, and spirit, and it's bringing our culture, our language, our way of life back into that tight braid, and bringing all of our people back together, because one of the strongest forms of togetherness is that braid.
Excellent. So I'm wondering, what are some of the largest misconceptions or lack of awareness that you might have encountered regarding the Nipmuc tribe's history and culture?
Where to begin? I would definitely say 9 times out of 10, we hear it often, that, oh, I didn't know any Native Americans were still here or anything like that. We have a little reservation in Grafton, Massachusetts, which is 4.5 acres. As you continue on into the rest of Turtle Island, which they now call the United States, which has these fictitious borders that we had tribal territories originally. And so as I travel throughout Turtle Island and I sit at, let's say the Menominee Reservation, who actually has their own county, which is like a state within the state, and there's thousands of acres in these reservations. Coming back home, you need to understand that in the East, this is ground zero when it comes to colonization and assimilation, what has happened to our people here. It started here, and we took the brunt force for about 200 years before it had moved to the Midwest and West. And here, it wasn't about moving the indigenous folks to another region. It was about putting bounties on our heads and putting our heads on a staff. That's what was happening here. It was genocide.
What brought you to a place of wanting to educate and provide this outreach into the community? And I'm going to follow up with the same question for you. Putting your artwork on display to be seen by people that are not within your tribe is very vulnerable, and it really bears your heart and soul. But I'll start with you first.
Well, it's being inspired by some of these teachers, Darius Coombs, and Whedon, some of these folks like Nani Poshnit or Bruce Curlis, and some of these folks who've been doing this for a long time, and seeing them when I was little, and it took me some time in my life to be able to step into who we are here, because, just like everybody has been assimilated to live and work a 9 to 5 and live a certain lifestyle, which we never lived. We had a different algorithm of being in relationship to the land and being here in the ways that we always have been here. And so in learning these traditional skills and practices, I started to outweigh living that lifestyle to just wanting to do this every day so that our culture can thrive, and now I do that throughout all of Turtle Island, like we call it, just getting back from the North Pacific West and talking about doing a machine burn over there, which is a dugout canoe. And so that's what we do. We teach how to build our traditional homes, our structures, and turn trees into dugout canoes. And we teach brain tanning, just like the regalia Scott was talking about. We teach how to turn deer skins into the things that we wear, and just giving these traditional practices back into our communities to put these puzzle pieces back inside of us and make us whole the ways that we have been for 12,000 years here.
Wow. Now, Scott, when I spoke to you earlier, you said that there was even some apprehension within some of the tribe members that you knew about being photographed, and yet you've been able to capture these gorgeous images, and now they are on display. Talk to me about that process of starting so intimately, and how now you've made the choice to be able to make this art very public and to really serve a cause.
That's an interesting question. One of the things that you have to realize, or we all have to embrace, is the fact of trust. Things have been taken away from different ethnic groups, and especially the Native American people. So when you come into a space where there are other Native people and you wanted to take pictures, the natural response is, well, why? Because I'm taking a little part of them with me. And what are you going to do with it? Because a lot of times people that come from outside the community will come in, they'll take pictures, but it's almost in a way like they're at a zoo. So they want to get all of these different types of people dressed in different traditional clothing, and it's fascinating to them. So they're like, click, click, click. And the right thing to do is to ask for permission, okay? And in order to have a comfortable space, in order for people to really shine and show their spirit, you have to have a sense of trust, and you have that sense of permission. And it took me over a year and a half to build trust in my own community, because it's not really done. And it's something that is very sacred. So I tried to do when I set up and I ask people to, if I could take their picture, I do it in a trusting and loving way.
I hear you speaking about, drawing back to the way of your ancestors and speaking those messages and living that life. And yet here we are in a very modern world. How do those two things conflict with each other, and how do you balance that?
Oh, I can tell you, I'm here because he asked me to be here. No, I'm not. This isn't the normal setting of mine. I prefer being in the forest and this time of year, tapping trees and getting ready for fiddlehead harvest and birch water harvest. It's a difficult balance, I can tell you that. And it's a balance that all of our people feel daily, and the more that you step into this lifestyle, though, the further you get away from that one. But understanding that we live in both worlds now, and so that can be difficult to balance. But the more that we get together with like-minded people, the more grounded we can become,
You just touched this feather, and you said that this had some significance that you just wanted to bring to the table here, and now let's bring it into the conversation.
My native name is Kwanyu Medikishu, which is Stronghawk, and this is a red tail feather. And I brought it here to put on the table as a sense of grounding, as Andre and I had talked about earlier. And it's just representative of our community and the fact that you're sitting over on the other side with papers and pens.
And the phone and checking okay. Yeah, we have to take a break in a few, and
basically being grounded with this is one of our relatives. This is representative of who we are.
What a lovely sentiment. Yeah. Sara, I'm really curious about what the community's response has been to this wonderful exhibit.
Yeah, it's been overall very positive. We had a small exhibit from Marlborough Makers before we put up Scott's art, and we installed the actual rail system and everything, and he has been really wonderful to work with to actually get it going. And I think having a space it's in our cafe right next to the welcome desk when you come in the library. So it's a highly trafficked area. People spend a lot of time in there. And I think being able to be surrounded by those photographs as people are working and getting on with their daily life, it's been a really nice kind of balance for them to be able to just be immersed within that. And I've had positive comments from folks all along the way. And I'm looking forward to continuing with that in that space.
Something that was appreciated, of course, is that, of course, there are little blurbs underneath the photos explaining who some of the people are that are being photographed and a little biography of yourself, but it really can only touch the surface. Mm-hmm. Of course, with any sort of visual art, it's the art that really speaks a message to you as well. But then I found myself hunting to say, but who is that? And who is that person there? And what's their story? Mm-hmm. And that hopefully is an experience that you're trying to create here, someone to be curious and then to continue to research and expand their knowledge. Was that sort of your intention?
You basically, by you saying what you just said about the exhibit, is exactly what I'm trying to create, is a sense of wanting to learn more. Taking a look at those beautiful people in their traditional clothing and realizing wow, because when the Europeans first arrived, there were no cameras. They were just crude drawings or what they remembered, what they thought they saw.
Right.
And unfortunately, 90% of the time, they weren't accurate. So this gives us an opportunity to show who we are. And it's not about me and whether I'm a good photographer or an okay photographer. It's about
He's a great
about
photographer, by the way.
No,
He's great. He knows what he's doing.
no, in all honesty, and I thank you, Devotni. But it's about who I'm photographing. It's about them. It's about highlighting our community and welcoming people in from the outside. And I don't want to say the outside, but who are outside the community, to say, this is who we are. We don't dress like this every day, but this is how our ancestors dressed. And we're basically here honoring our ancestors, representing our culture. And I have several different sister tribes as part of the exhibit to say, we are still here. You know, we may not be portrayed in the movies or in books the way that we should be, whether it be markers and all around Massachusetts saying, you know, various things about indigenous people, but this is who we are. So come check us out. Yeah, you are invited to powwows. You're invited to some of the social gatherings that we have, because we want you to learn more about us. You know, we're just like you. We're doctors, we're lawyers, we're educators, we're, politicians, we're nurses, we're cultural stewards, carpenters. We're just like you. It's just that we're in the same spaces. We see you, but more often than not, you don't see us.
I think that's a great segue that I think we should go into showing. I was able to go and get a great one-on-one tour of the display at Marlborough Public Library with Scott, and I think we should check out that video right now.
A lot of folks don't realize that the Native Americans that are indigenous to this region are still here. We're all amongst you. You just don't realize it. We don't dress like in our regalia in our day-to-day life. We dress just like everybody else. We're doctors, we're lawyers, we're carpenters, we're salesmen, we're garbage collectors, we're politicians too. So it was important for me to say, hey, we're still here. Acknowledge us. We walk in the same spaces that you do. We see you, but more often than not, you don't see us. I want to take pictures of my people. I'm a Haskell-Nipmuc Nipmuc from a Nipmuc band. We occupied central and western Massachusetts and parts of northern Rhode Island and Connecticut. So it was important to me when I went to powwows. I would see Nipmucs in our sister tribes dressed up in all their beauty and listening to the drum, which is the heartbeat of Mother Earth. And I'm getting chills right now, and it made me feel proud. And I wanted to share that with everybody because no one really knows that we're still here and that we're beautiful people, we're resilient. We went through a lot through history, and I wanted to tell the story through picture. Laura Sun Turtle, these two women are Mashpee, and she has a buckskin there that has her genealogy written on it. So she has her entire family tree on the back of that buckskin. And you can see the detail, where that detail is important. And as my mother always said, the more you know, the better you do. So hopefully people will embrace the indigenous community, want to learn more, and that's the only thing how you can foster change.
What did I say? That wonderful display that Scott put together is just beautiful and touching, and it gets you inspired to want to learn more, to dive in. And I know one of the photographs is especially important to you because it's a photograph of your mother. Tell me about that and how that sort of catapulted your whole style that you've developed here.
My mother her native name is Ocean Sunrise. She's a Nipmuc elder of the Haskell-Nipmuc band. And that all started back in 2010. I was taking my youngest son out in the woods to take pictures of leaves in the fall time. And I always would bring both of my sons out in the woods to help them, to expose them to Mother Nature. Mother Earth, and just to appreciate the outside and be exposed to the things that they need to learn about. And I came back, I told him to pick 3 leaves. He picked 3 leaves. He happened to be wearing a black sweatshirt. And when I took the picture and looked at it after the fact in post-processing, I was like, oh my God. I said, look, all I can see is his hands. And all I can see is the leaves. So that's how the black backdrop evolved. It evolved from a simple photograph of my son's hands. The next thing I did is 2 days later, I had my mother. She put on her regalia and with natural lighting from the sliding glass door. I took a picture of her, and that's how the whole concept of photographing my people in their traditional clothing with a black backdrop took off.
And you're right, the composition of that with that stark blackness behind them allows not only their clothing to shine, but their faces and their spirit to really come to the front. It's really wonderful.
It takes away any distractions from the background. I mean, nature is beautiful, but when you have someone or an object with a black backdrop, you focus in on the object. This happens to be you focus on the people, you focus in on their eyes, you look at their spirit, you look at what they're wearing, the colors, they jump out at you, and then now you're like, okay, my 100% of my attention is on you.
Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to accomplish.
Now, you'd think that having a display like this in a library would just make perfect common sense, but Andre, there's a long history of being excluded from history for different tribes and being excluded from public places that gives having this type of artwork in a public space a special significance. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. I mean, it wasn't even legal for us to speak our language until 1978 with the Indigenous Native American Movement Act. And so for us to have our ceremonial practices and be who we are, that wasn't until 78. 2002, still in blue law, that if a Native American stepped within the city limits without being accompanied by a musketeer, they could be killed. And so that was in 2002. So for us to come together and teach these truths within libraries, quite honestly, that our truths of genocide, that First World War, they talk about 2 world wars, but, the definition of a world war is another country invading one to take it over. That's what happened here, especially for our population to be what it is right now. And so to speak these truths instead of them being swept under a rug and actually being put on display, our truths and who we are and that we're still here, is really significant in many different ways that we could talk about for a long time,
Sara, I'm curious what sort of barriers you might be encountering at the library as you try to involve diverse communities in your programming.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when, we are one institution with a small staff, and it is tough when a lot of our staff are not from these communities either, to really, for us to uncover these people and find out how to connect with them and bring their work into the library, not just art, but also books and other, cultural programs and stuff like that.
Well, also, education like this can be hard. It can be difficult. And I'm imagining that as a cultural institute, even as a television studio, we're always looking for feel-good content, for fun content. But I think there can be a balance where people can be educated and informed of the atrocities of the past, and it can all happen and end on a positive note. Am I right there?
Sure. I mean, let's just get right to the fact. The bloodiest battle that ever set foot on U.S. soil was the King Philip's War, 1675. And so these are hard truths, man, woman, and child per capita. Those who laid their lives down, that was the worst that happened here. And so these are hard truths to accept and to acknowledge for people who are not from here. We have Deer Island. This is one of our memorial sites that is not acknowledged as a memorial site. And Deer Island is in Boston, and it was potentially one of our internment camps that we were sent out to. And hundreds of us had died on that island, and now there's a waste facility treatment plant on that. And so people don't understand some of these hard truths that we have to accept and walk by and see every day, you know. And so using libraries, public stations like this, and being able to share some of these truths to kind of reach out into more people is the reason why I'm here, because naturally it feels uncomfortable.
Well, I'm curious, and maybe you can share a little, since this is a bit of a roundtable, what strategies and types of presentation or outreach have worked for you to make an impact, and what's working for you as well, Sara?
Yeah, sure. Some of the works that we do is public events that turn into cultural revitalization events. And so we've been working within our cedar swamps to gather some of our traditional poles, which in turn has turned into realizing that our cedar swamp's in a real state of decline. And so we've been focusing on the revitalization of the land as well, not just our people and culture, because the earth provides for all of us here. And so in doing that, cleaning out some of our cedar swamps, we've then been able to create public events, like in Worcester at Elm Park this past year. We created a home site. That's the most central place in Nipmuc territory. And so for us to be able to do that there was really significant. One, for our people to be able to come together and see what a traditional home site looks like, and light a mashoon, which is a dugout canoe, and to be able to cook on it and drum there. We had a great event, but also it stayed up for some months and created public education for the city and folks to be able to walk by and see. And there was a lot of verbiage with the signage about what is what here. And just kind of put our footmark back on what they call Worcester, the city, which traditionally would have been our village, a village called Pacachog right over there, you know. And so.
And how about you, Sara? What sort of outreach activities have sparked conversation and have taken the communication on any of the topics presented at the library to the next level? What amps it up and keeps the conversation going?
Well, I think ensuring that what we offer at the library is incredibly diverse to cover everything, all of the people that live in our community is important, but also just making sure that the library is considered a safe, respectful space so that we can have these sorts of hard conversations, and having programs that opens people's eyes to something they may not be aware of or something that makes them uncomfortable. The library can be seen as that space where everyone can be respected while they're there and visiting and attending these sorts of events, or seeing this sort of art, or reading that book that maybe makes you a little bit uncomfortable. And it's all about, furthering that education in the community and making sure that it makes our community a healthier place when everyone can be respectful and knows more about each other. And honestly, it's been tough to do that sort of outreach, and I am always looking for opportunities for the library to talk to these sorts of people. Scott didn't come to me right after the library opened. I would never have known, because
you're searching for things to fill, but it's only the people that have the knowledge that that need to share it. So if you feel like your culture isn't being represented, if there is a particular topic that you feel isn't being shared and people aren't being informed, it's your responsibility too to reach out to an institution like the library and say, could you get someone in here to talk about how the rat poison is now affecting the bird community in your area?
And we did that.
Which you did, So that's just an example of you're responsible too to be educated, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to speak personally and a little bit vulnerably, when I watched a video of you presenting in a library, and you taught a traditional dance, and there is a large crowd of people moving around, and for someone like me, it makes me feel a lot of different things that border on, is this cultural appropriation? But I have been invited. But but am I supposed to be doing something that is not of my culture? What words could you give someone like me who's dealing with that?
Sure, absolutely. We would never invite people into traditionally ceremonial dances. We have a lot of social dances that we share up the coastline here with Eastern Woodland peoples.
So that's probably what I was watching.
Some social dances, round dances, and stomp dances, and things like that we invite public to kind of understand a little bit about who we are here and what we've been doing here for thousands of years. And so these are always open to people, and it kind of just gives a little bit more about who we are in general. These dances tell stories. And so in that, it gives us an opportunity to kind of tell a story about who we are in the way that it's been here for thousands of years.
One of the things that I shared with Andre, because more often than not, I'm taking pictures at these at the events that No Loose Braids puts on, and when they're doing the round dance and the stomp dance, and I'm taking probably too many pictures, but I take a lot of pictures, and I get a chance to capture Andre as he's leading the dance and the smile on his face, and I'm looking at all the other people that are participating, and they're smiling too. I was like, I can understand he loves what he does. And it shows, and I've captured it so many times in picture, but more importantly, the people that are participating are enjoying themselves too. So that means that a connection is being made. And that's the only way that you can foster change, is by learning more, by getting involved, understanding how you can help, and bringing in cultural stewards like Andre when you have a project or thinking about doing something, to bring him in as a consultant, so that way you're doing it in the right way.
Well, let's follow up there and close it out with if someone's watching this program and first off, they weren't even aware that the Nipmuc tribe is represented right here in their community. What are the first steps that people can do to start becoming a little bit more educated? And then how can they begin to embrace and learn more about this community?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of different initiatives and projects going on. Ours is No Loose Braids, which I told you what it is. You can find us at www.noloosebraids.com, which will then actually, you can navigate into seeing a lot of the different other projects within our community that we have. In Athol, we have a Pequog farm, which is Keely Curlis is running, really focusing on food sovereignty and doing that in a great way, bringing our corn harvest back to our people. And, Eastern Woodland Rematriations, Nipmuc Cultural Preservations, and there's a whole bunch of other organizations within our community as a collective that we uplift each other. And you could definitely tap in through our website to find these.
Wonderful. It's been fantastic having you on the show. Any last words you'd like to speak out into the universe?
Well, the only thing that I can think of is that there are some other exhibits going on.
Oh, yes.
Indigenous people. There's obviously the one that's here that's going to be running through the 31st, but there's one at Bunker Hill Community College. There's also an exhibit that Andre and I both worked on together at the Springfield Museums in their Native American Hall, which will be up through August 8th. So there's a lot of fun things and exciting things going on. There's an exhibit at the Pequot Museum, and you probably could speak more to that.
Yeah, sure. That's the 13 Moons exhibit, which we took part of. But also that Bunker Hill Community College, Pam Ellis, who's a Nipmuc as well, she curated that exhibit, and it is called the Monitosh.
Mm-hmm.
And that means to create, because we didn't have a word in our language as artists, and so we create this work, and that is what it is.
And what was so wonderful about that exhibit was it was 6 indigenous artists from southern New England, and they had from woodworking to jewelry, craftsmanship, to regalia, to painting, to storybook writing, and then there were a couple of photos up there, but
your
photo. Just a few.
But I mean, it was amazing to walk into a space and to look around and say, wow.
Yeah, to be represented.
To be represented and say there are so many talented people, and I wish it could be up there forever.
Yeah.
But
well, this has been really great. I've really enjoyed having this sort of roundtable conversation. I think we're going to have to do some more of these at the studio. You're all invited back anytime. You have something to promote or something happening in Massachusetts or in the broader area, please let us know. I'd love to have you back again. And Sara, I'm sure I'll be following up with you on new initiatives that the library is going to have to continue to explore and show local Native American culture and initiatives at the library.
Absolutely.
Excellent. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that one of the main things we do here at WMCT-TV is try to encourage the community to create. I think of community television as sort of this living time capsule where anyone in Marlborough can use these facilities or borrow cameras or camcorders at no cost whatsoever to capture their life, to capture the history and vibrancy of the life that they're living at this moment in this city. So whether you're an indigenous person or you've immigrated here or you've lived in Marlborough your whole life, we want to capture these moments here at WMCT-TV for posterity to just share with future generations. So thank you all so much. That brings me to the end of another episode of Marlborough Minute. I'm Ryan Maliar, and thank you so much for tuning in.